got my orange juice. I'm ready to get going. Let's talk.
That would have been smart.
What, some orange juice?
Yeah. I should have gotten myself something to, like, kickstart the morning. Did not do that yet.
Well, you gotta take better care of yourself, Sheldon. This is the challenge. You have to be ready for all things the challenge.
A rookie move by me.
We're going to talk about some rookie moves today. Let's start with our introductions, though. I'm John Shidley Hill.
Mm-hmm. And I am Sheldon Alexander.
You took a pause there. You had to think about it.
I did.
And this is You Killed It, the podcast about the challenge, slightly earlier for us, but I'm feeling energetic. I wouldn't say I'm hyped by this episode, but I'm feeling good, Sheldon. Lack of sleep. I'm in that sweet spot of being like well rested, but also punchy. It's a good place to be. Just like the UK Alliance is a good place to be.
Yeah, I'll say this. I'm super tired for sure, but whatever. The people don't care about us being tired. Fuck our feelings. They just want to be entertained, right? They don't care about how tired we are. Just like we don't care how tired Bear might be, or we don't care how tired Wes might be, or we don't care that D can't swim, right?
I don't think D cares either.
Apparently
not. So we start... once again, I mean, I feel like you and I say this every week, but it bears repeating, no pun intended, that
You definitely... That pun was intended.
It was not. I would take credit for a pun if I had it lined up. But
that's fair.
We start with the UK Alliance, once again, riding high, celebrating, muttering their words, the things that British people do.
They're kind of like the Golden State Warriors right now. Like, you just can't stop it at all. I guess if I was to run with this, it would be... Bear would probably have to be... I guess he would be Draymond.
He's got to be Draymond. Come on.
Right? That would make the most sense.
Yeah.
Although...
And Theo would...
Gorilla Ashley would probably be Clay.
Theo would be Steph.
No. Clay would have... Who would be Steph, sorry?
Theo
Steph?
Yeah.
The nice guy... Everyone seems to like Theo.
The best
really
performer.
Theo.
The best performer athletically, I believe. Interesting.
But yeah, they're strong. Gang.
Mm-hmm. Gang. So while that's going on, I should say Georgia talks about how into Bear she is, how she sees a future with him outside of the house. Just as soon as you're saying that in a challenge house, you're in so much trouble.
Correct.
And we learn that Dee does not know how to swim. She nearly drowned as a 14-year-old and has never looked back. So Wes has been giving her swimming lessons in their tiny-ass pool with Dee for a week, with Turbo watching on, presumably as lifeguard.
I guess so.
And in fairness to Dee, if you go swimming in the ocean in Australia, there's like a good chance that you're going to be eaten by a shark. Right? Like, swimming in Australia is not exactly a joke. It can be pretty serious.
That's fair. I mean, we've talked about this before, the ability to swim or not to swim, but the thing that I thought was most important here was, do you think that Wes would have been okay with that partnership if he had known that beforehand?
I don't think... I mean, I think he would have preferred it.
I don't think so.
I don't think so. I think he would have preferred it if she knew how to swim. And going into this.
Yeah. Okay. Either way.
Yeah.
Let's get to the meat here. Let's get to the juice.
Yeah, I was going to say, we're going to get to talk about swimming a little bit more. But let's get to the fireworks factory. Bear is on the phone.
Hold on. Before we get into this, I want to say something, though.
Yeah.
There's been a back and forth between us on the podcast, people writing in, whether it's on Reddit, whether it's on the Facebook group, or wherever you consume this podcast. Shouts to everyone that does, respond back and start some conversation on Twitter, etc. But Bear has been the talk of the season, whether we enjoy Bear, whether we don't enjoy Bear. This episode, to me, just personified that Bear is reality television.
He is.
Whatever you want to say about Bear, this was a very solid performance, and the whole girlfriend back home is a great old trick of all reality shows. Right?
His cousin, thank you.
Well, just the scene of calling the girlfriend back home, and the girlfriend back home saying, "Are you okay? Is there anything you need to tell me?" It's like, hey, I am not one to claim to know about being in a great relationship, but here's a hint. No, but here's a hint. If you have to ask, is there anything that you need to tell me? I'm going to go out on a limb and guess that things are not going well.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, if you have to ask that question, is there anything that you feel you need to tell me? I'm like, yo.
Yeah. Have you ever read the book American Gods by Neil Gaiman or seen the TV series? Are you familiar with this show?
I am not, but I saw it on my, that's funny you mentioned that. I saw that on my guide last night, or on the, whatever it was, Netflix or whatever it was. As I was scrolling through, I was like, oh, I did see the poster, for lack of a better term.
Okay, so I'm going to try to make this brief because I don't want to go on too big a tangent. But the concept of American gods is that there's the old gods, like the Egyptian gods, and the Norse gods, like Odin and Thor and all that stuff. But there's, new gods because people are increasingly worshiping different things, like television and fame and sex and money and the internet, and the new gods, they're the walking manifestations of these things. So the guy who represents television is this fat gross guy, right, that only eats McDonald's, only eats fast food. I almost feel like Bear is the reality TV god from American Gods, because he's just the distillation of everything that makes reality TV, for better or for worse. He's all of it. And
that's fair.
And just I was thinking about this last night because I worked last night, but obviously I'd seen previews. I knew this was coming with Bear's maybe girlfriend, and he says in confessional tonight, or on this episode, that when he left to record this show, things were up in the air. And this is such...
we were on again, off again, and when we left, it was up in the air.
And I'm not mad at him because it's making for good TV. And I think if you're going to be romantically involved with Bear, you just have to accept what you're getting, to an extent. And
I also, hold on, I kind of get the feeling that regardless of whether you're on a reality TV show or not, you're probably always just up in the air with Bear.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah. He's a guy that hit on Nani with Georgia 100 feet away. It's Bear. But if you're going to go onto the challenge and your relationship is quote-unquote up in the air, just break up with the person. There's 100% chance you're going to get into at least the showmance with someone on the show. Just if your relationship is already dicey, just clear the air so you can enjoy yourself, worry-free, get your tests done, and then just enjoy yourself for 6 weeks. And then if you really want to return to being up in the air, go back to being up in the air. But just it's such an easy line to draw. Yeah.
Can I be honest about something here? And
yes.
Please, again, I'm begging people for the feedback here because I want their takes on this. But if your relationship is up in the air, you're not in a relationship.
Yeah. No,
Am I wrong fair.
Here? No, but
right?
But he also did say that if this person who remains nameless were to exit his life, he'd be very upset. And also, my point is, the problem is up in the air means that you have to make phone calls like this. Get yourself to a place where you're not making phone calls like this.
I mean, Yeah. There's a lot there. And the whole here's my thing with reality TV at times, right? You get that certain things are put on, you get that certain things are ad-libbed or scripted or bigged up for the sake of the cameras and all that. But I'm going to give my man Bear some credit here because he really leaned into the whole, it was my cousin. And it's like, that is the worst lie ever. And it's like everybody knows that you're lying,
so
but he ran with it. It's so bad. And the other part that was funny here as well was as they're putting on the show for the cameras, the rest of the people, the rest of the castmates just sitting around watching, the cutaways were incredible.
Oh, yeah.
Fake cutaways or not. It was so good watching these people react to Bear's just, ridiculous nature. And also, I feel like we should clarify something here. This, if it's sounding like we're co-signing Bear's behavior, we're not co-signing Bear's behavior in real life or in a real life situation.
No.
We're co-signing Bear's behavior under the context of being on a reality show and us being entertained.
Yeah,
if we're talking about outside the house in normal life situations, no. Obviously, we would all agree that this is terrible behavior. Just got to put that out there just in case someone's misconstrued. But we're here for a reality show, and under the construct of a reality show, this guy's pretty hilarious.
We're slowing down our cars so we can look at the accident. We're not condoning car accidents, but we're gonna slow down and look, right? And
but we do hate those people that slow down on the highway to look at the accident. But I do get your point. Yeah. Yes.
I have to say, I wonder if Georgia is attracted to the drama. I mean, first of all, she was on Love Island, so the answer is obviously yes. But also, it's such an obviously transparent lie, and her anger toward him lasts for maybe 24 hours, if that, 30 hours, I don't know, not a long period of time. And so, his insistence that it's his cousin, that's such an easy lie to solve. Be like, oh yeah, what's your cousin's name? What's her last name? How's she related to you? It's so easy.
But hold on. Here's the thing though, right? The way that we look at these reality shows, and when I say we, I'm generalizing here, obviously. But we always look at it from the viewpoint of the male perspective. Okay, follow me for a second.
Sure.
I mean that in terms of, oh, how could she believe Bear, blah, blah, blah. And we'll give Bear the credit for being the showman and being I'm putting on a show and being completely ridiculous. And we'll be like, how's Georgia falling for this? But as I was watching this, I kind of felt, wait a second, she's equally doing a great job in terms of putting on the show as well. There's no way that she believes any of this, but she knows that this is good TV. It's a good storyline. What do we talk about all the time? You give yourself a storyline, it's more camera time. It's more likely that you'll be back on the show next season. Riding the Bear wave is good for business.
Well, and so that's partly my point.
Do you know what I mean?
I think she might be attracted to this nonsense. B, it's such an obvious lie that he's telling that she's choosing to participate in this. And I don't want to skip too far ahead, but at the club when they get into the argument and then she turns on Hunter, she's definitely gunning for drama. I agree with what you're saying. I don't want to say let's not see Georgia as the victim here, but I don't think she's that dumb either.
Yeah, exactly. I think just as much as we're always prone to give credit in terms of the entertainment standpoint to the guy and being like, oh man, look at what he's doing. He's being such a good showman. He's building up the drama. We never really take it from the girl's perspective, and we always try to make it seem and she's there and she's crying and, it's oh no, poor her. I think she knows what she's doing. And I'm giving her credit for that because she also has been good television. In terms of just making the show entertaining.
Yeah, let's not rob her of her agency. She has a role to play too.
Exactly.
And I don't think it's like, as a victim. Like, I think she's a willing participant.
Yes.
To a degree.
Yes. Totally agree.
We need to talk about Turbo, because
okay,
he continues to fascinate me, and like I like him more and more every episode, but also he gets weirder and weirder every episode. Did you catch what he said when all this was going down? Because I wrote, you didn't? Oh my god, this is my line of the episode.
So. Okay.
So, like, Georgia's crying to all the women, and, like, Turbo's, like, sort of leaning.
Keep going, man.
And he sort of, like, shrugs and looks into his cup and goes, "You have to cut his dick."
I did catch that.
And it's just like...
But the thing was, do you know what happened, though? I rewound it, and I only caught it the second time around because Wes walks in, and he's like, "Hey, man, your cousin's so hot."
Yes, I like that. Just the shit-eating grin on Wes. Like, because, like, he walks into a room that's clearly not his, and, like, you can tell that there's so many things that Wes wanted to say because he hates Bear so much. And, like, you could just see the gears turning in his eyes. And then he settles on, "Your cousin is hot." And it's a good line. And, like, even Bear, like, those two do not like each other. Even Bear has to laugh.
Yeah.
Because it's such an obvious lie.
Yeah, it's so ridiculous. It's so funny. And, yeah, I mean, the fact of Bear having the... Like, this is where you know it's played up, where he's then having the heart-to-heart with Theo, and he's like, "If I want to speak to a loved one, I should be allowed to. I shouldn't have to explain myself." And it's like, come on, man. You don't even believe what you're saying right now. It's so ridiculous.
I do like that literally there's not a single person that believes Bear, not even Bear. Right? Like, even, like, Theo, and, like, even Theo's like, "Okay, let's say it is your cousin. You're still being a dick." Like...
Well, I love that Davon just tweeted out. She just tweeted, "My partner, ... Oh, man. So good, so good. But anyways, the other part, too, about Bear is the Bear-Davon dynamic has been so good as well. Mm-hmm. Just because, you know, we talk about the rooting interest. And it's like, even if you find Bear annoying, he has his moments of being like, "Ah," right? That, like, pull you back in. So it kind of makes, like, it's just great TV.
Absolutely. So we get to...
Did you think this challenge was great TV?
Brain freeze?
This competition?
I suddenly tripped over it. Brain freeze?
Yes.
I didn't think it... I mean... I think it was difficult. I don't think it was very cinematic. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think it lent itself well to television. Because the water was so choppy. It looked like they didn't really have a camera out in the water. I guess they had some, like, remote GoPros or whatever. Mm-hmm. It didn't really... I don't know. It didn't really appeal to me. And also, I got hung up on something.
Okay.
And so I was doing some Googling for most of this competition, if I'm being honest. Because TJ says, "Oh, it's 59 degrees Fahrenheit." Which, first of all, is maybe the most annoying American habit there is, to put things in Fahrenheit. Like, literally, they are the only country on Earth, aside from, I think, North Korea, that uses the imperial system. So I had to Google what 59 degrees Fahrenheit is, because they're like, "Oh my god, it's so cold." Do you know what 59 degrees is in Celsius? You know, the unit of measurement that literally the rest of the Earth uses?
Do you know what's funny about this, John? We are on episode what of this podcast?
106?
No, I was going to say 105, no?
Oh, you're right, 105.
We are doing episode 105 right now. And 105 episodes in. You know what's so funny? As I was writing down my notes, and I wrote down what TJ said in terms of saying that it was, 59 degrees. I also wrote, I would look it up, but I know that John definitely would tell me exactly how much it is in Celsius, because I know John very well, and I know that that is a role that he plays in our duo of being the one with the facts and the I was going to say journalistic integrity, but really it's just Googling.
It's just Googling.
And I am the dumb one that's just like, yeah, I know John will do it, and I'll just copy the answers off of his page.
In fairness, that's hilarious. In fairness, I wouldn't just do that for this podcast. Like, if I was just watching this on my own, I'd be like, what is 59 degrees Fahrenheit? What the fuck is this? It is 15 degrees Celsius.
Okay.
Which, like, I will grant...
That's like patio season.
Yeah, that's patio season in Toronto. So, the rest of this challenge, as people were complaining about how cold it was, I was looking up the average water temperature in Lake Ontario. Have you ever been swimming in Lake Ontario?
When I was a kid.
It's doable, right? Like, it's not, like, my favorite thing. It's The average temperature in Lake Ontario is, like, 10, 12, 13 degrees Celsius. Like, this is not...
Even in the summer?
Yeah.
Wow. And for the record, before we get all the igloo jokes, when I said it's patio season at 15 degrees Celsius, I mean, like, the start of patio season.
Yeah.
Summertime, you're banging at, like, 30 plus, like, let's be serious.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
for the record, sometimes we got to explain these things, right?
Yeah, that's totally fair. But it's an important thing for non-Canadians to understand that when winter ends in Canada, and especially for whatever reason in Toronto, as soon as it gets above 5 degrees, people go out on patios because we're so tired of being indoors. And as Sheldon said, like, that's not our summer temperature. It's 35 degrees Celsius, 95 degrees Fahrenheit. You're welcome, Sheldon.
Yeah.
But...
Hey, I wasn't wrong.
No, you're not wrong.
wrong.
I just threw the Fahrenheit out there because I Googled it when you were speaking. But, yeah, as soon as it gets, like, survivable without a coat, and 5 degrees Celsius is definitely survivable, we're out there. Like, it's opening day for the Toronto Blue Jays today. It's technically spring. I think it's, like, around freezing outside. There's still going to be people in shorts outside today. Like, I guarantee I'll see someone in shorts.
There's this, like, crazy Instagram feed. I can't remember if it was, like, the one about Dufferin Mall or the one about Parkdale, but one of them just had a going feed of people in winter jackets and shorts.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I have no idea why, but it is a thing that happens for some strange ass reason. I don't understand it. I don't have the answer, Sway. But, yeah.
My point is just that I was distracted by what fucking babies they were to think that 15 degrees water was cold.
We got off on a crazy tangent there.
We did.
I literally just thought, I was like, wait, how did I end up on people talking about winter jackets and shorts? How do we end up here?
Because this is half
going on?
This is half challenge podcast, half Canadian flexes.
Fair enough.
That's
so,
our brand.
Hold on. Do we explain what's going on in this challenge?
We
You have
did
to
not.
Run in the water.
We were too mad.
The water is kind of cold.
We were too mad at Americans being babies about cold water.
So you have to run into the water, swim out, grab a puzzle piece, bring the puzzle piece back, and then you keep switching with your partner. There's 8 puzzle pieces in total. Then you have to put the puzzle together. First 3 teams become the tribunal.
Yes. The story of this competition, and maybe the story of the episode competition-wise, is that Wes and D win despite her learning how to swim, like, the fucking day before. And, like, in fairness, Wes or Shane are the strongest swimmers in challenge history. Or there's another guy. What's that guy? He was on Real World Brooklyn, like the one that has Sarah and Chet, and anyway. But Wes is one of the strongest swimmers in challenge history. So, like, I'm sure he carried the load. But D didn't fuck it up for them. Like, this is a competition where if D floundered or could not keep the pace or got scared or shook or, you know, maybe turned into an ice cube, allegedly, this whole thing would come apart. But she kept them competitive.
Yeah, I think the biggest part of this, too, was just the fact that once you realize that you're not afraid, and she said the adrenaline kicked in, and that was really a key factor for her, but also once you realize that you're not scared and you're wearing a life jacket, so literally you can't drown.
Yeah.
Or let me rephrase that. It'd be extremely difficult for you to drown with the life jacket on. And once you realize that, hey, you're good to go. It's not really like, remember that challenge where Jose, who also can't swim?
Oh, yeah.
But there was no life jacket in the pool, and he was just like, just there. I don't even know what to call it. But he just basically sank to the bottom, and they had to jump in and save him. Like, that was kind of different than this situation. But either way, got to give Dee a lot of credit, because for her to be able to do that, to overcome that, and win, shouts to them.
Shouts to them.
What I found... Sorry.
I'm sorry, I got to make a point here. It's sort of infamously on the challenge is that Leroy is a bad swimmer. Right? And that's one of the reasons why he's never won a challenge. Why hasn't he been able to, like, if D could learn to be competent in the span of a week, why hasn't Leroy learned? Like, get Wes to teach you, apparently. Apparently Wes is a great teacher.
Apparently. Maybe he just hasn't, he's on Team Bananas, right? So Wes probably hasn't given his services to Team Bananas.
I guess not. I don't know. It's just... I'm just so blown away by D learning that immediately I'm like, man, Leroy, like, what's happening, man? Weird.
Yeah, Wes should start a swimming school, challenge swimming school on the side.
He should.
Right? He could have Jose, he could have Leroy. Who else can't swim?
There's someone else.
Well, Dee, obviously, she could still do it some more lessons, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it'd be interesting. But what else was going on in this challenge? I also found it funny just watching the people yell at each other.
Yeah.
So, for the like Georgia and Hunter dynamic, which, as we mentioned, is the theme of the episode, essentially. But Georgia just yelling at Hunter to go, and she's like screaming at him at the top of her lungs. And he's like, no, we have all the pieces. There's 8. And he starts counting, and she just, like, goes from screaming to just, like, oh, okay. In, like, the span of 2.5 seconds. I found that funny just because you're showing their dynamic with each other and how dysfunctional it is. But also, the one thing we could see, and even though it doesn't really translate, but they mentioned it, the fact that Kyle and Maddie were doing such a good job in terms of getting the puzzle pieces across or back to the sand, but they struggled mightily trying to put the puzzle actually together.
Yeah.
Which is just a reminder of, again, why we love the challenge, because as Wes points out later on, you think it's all about heart or it's all about strength, but it's about brains just as much, if not more.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was funny to see that. So who came in second?
Nami and Turbo were second, and Kara and Theo were third.
Yes, Kara and Theo were third, and then they showed off some terrible dances.
I noted that too. I was like, Jesus Christ, for athletic people, Theo and Kara are bad dancers. Like, they were so bad that I wondered if they were being purposely bad, but I don't think they were.
Yeah, I don't know. I got nothing. Like, I rewound it just to, like, double check and see what was going on or try to, like, make out what they were doing, but I have I got nothing.
She's sort of...
It's like, Theo, I want to give you the benefit of the doubt, my dude, but I was just like, I guess you're proving all stereotypes are not true.
Well,
jeez.
But, I mean, maybe the stereotype of British people being bad dancers overrode another stereotype.
Is that a thing?
Oh, my God.
Is that a thing?
Yeah.
I had no idea. I had no idea that was a thing.
Next time you're in Britain, try going to a club. Like, I've been to a couple weddings in Britain. They are horrible dancers. Just like the general population. Like, obviously, there've been some
Okay.
talented British people in, you know, the musical arts. But, like, your average British person is a significantly worse dancer than your average North American.
I was gonna say, man, Sporty Spice had some moves. Okay.
Yeah, but, like, Sporty Spice is an outlier.
I'm joking. They had the worst choreography of like any of the like pop boy band, boy girl or girl bands or pop bands.
Because they were British. The British are just bad dancers, bad teeth and bad dance moves.
I didn't know that was a thing, but okay, you learn something every day.
This is War of the Worlds, baby. We're learning about the world through reality TV and broad stereotypes. It's very healthy.
And again, this is all in the context of a reality show, people. We are joking around about the real world stuff. Just because, you know, in 2019, you get some people coming back at you like, how could you say that? It's like, relax.
I mean,
Joking around.
I'm of British descent. I feel I can hang my hat on this, but
That's fair. One thing I was going to say, though, the thing that was not a good look was Wes calling his shot and telling Bear to pack his bags.
Really?
I just kind of thought that was not a good move because it just never works out that way. It never does.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, it never works out that way. And to, like, overshoot your shot and, you know, be that confident, like, you got to vote. There's votes to go down. You don't know how the votes are going to go. You might have an idea, but things could change in the voting process. Then you have an actual elimination that you can't control who they're going to go against.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many intangibles that to call your shot at that point, even though we all know that's who you're going after, it's just one of those things that, you know, can end up in the recap, if you know what I'm saying.
yeah.
But anyways.
It made me laugh.
So-
I will say it made me laugh when Wes said, pack your bags, Bear. And partly because it immediately cut to Bear, who you could clearly see went, fuck.
Yes, it was quite funny. That led to a kind of meaningless nomination ceremony because it was pretty straightforward, pretty quick. Wes, obviously, as we just mentioned, his team picked Bear. Kara's team still being petty and picking Kyle's team. And Nani says she was picking Hunter's team as a burn vote.
Yeah. Can we talk about this for a second? Because this, I agree with you that, like, is a pretty straight ahead nomination ceremony because Kara and Theo and Wes and D nominated the correct people, right?
Okay.
Like, you're not pissing off additional people, and, like, I'm tired of the Kyle, Pauly, Kara drama, but, like, in terms of nomination strategy, it's spot on. Like, once you nominate someone, you have to keep nominating them until they're gone, pretty much, right?
Okay.
But I don't understand this concept of burn votes in these nomination ceremonies because, like, why even risk it? You know what I mean? Like, I don't see the value in a burn vote in the context of this voting structure. Like, isn't it more valuable to always put someone up that you want gone, regardless of, like, who else the other teams have nominated?
Yeah, you're right. Like, I don't see the benefit unless you're just trying to not say someone else's name who will then hold a vendetta against you.
Yeah, like, I guess, I don't know, it just seems to me, like, pointless. Like,
You're right, too. It is pointless because at this stage of the game, I think everyone knows what side everyone's on anyways.
yeah.
So there's no real reason to, like, hold back or pull punches, right?
Yeah, so, like, I haven't looked at the list of who they could nominate, but just, like, and, like, obviously Nani doesn't want to nominate Gus and Jenna, and they can't nominate Ashley and Cam, but, like, I don't know. I guess she couldn't nominate Polly and Ninja. That would, I don't know. It just feels like that saying, like, oh, it's a burn vote. I don't want to say it's a cop-out, but
Yeah.
I think it's not solid logic.
Yeah, it was weird. It was definitely weird. But then, hey, we have the actual tribunal, which, I mean, not much really happens in the tribunal. Kyle and Cara flirt some more. At least there's a scene where Georgia asks, why are we the burn vote? And if we get to the killing floor, do we have like assurances that we won't be your vote? And Nani says, as of now, to which they don't like, but that was just kind of, I think more drama.
Yeah.
And then you have the scene where Bear comes in, and it's just a Bear versus Wes situation where Wes is telling him to get out of here, and you're not going to disrespect the game, and it's just a lot going on there. Eventually, he escorts Bear out of the room. It's like, what's happening here?
I gotta ask you, did that feel staged to you?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the whole tribunal is staged, right? The whole thing is a show. The whole tribunal is an act. So I understand what's going on. And it worked for the first couple of weeks where people were just having like screaming matches, to the point where now I think people are going in trying to emulate that, but it's not really working to the same effect that it was earlier in the season.
Yeah.
Not yet anyways, even with Bear.
It's too much. It's one they're trying to like recapture that magic of earlier screaming matches.
Mm-hmm. But I felt like maybe earlier on it was more genuine, or there was at least a genuine feeling to it. Like it was the first time Kyle and Paulie would have had a situation where they're yelling at each other, whereas now it's like, what's Cara really going to say to Kyle at this point, for real?
Yeah.
But then we get to a club scene.
Yeah.
And the club scene, I mean, hey, we get some dancing, and one of the reasons why I always enjoy the club scene is because you get to see who can dance and who can't dance, but also you're people watching, right? You get to see who are the dancers, who's a person that's just chilling in the corner, who's posted up at the bar, who's trying to get with who. And you start with the first scene we get, actually, is, the classic circle and who's in the middle dancing, and it's Paulie and Cara at first getting down, and then you see Ashley doing some kind of b-boy kind of esque moves. I don't know what's really going on there.
But like, I felt like he was doing like silly dancing. You know what I mean? Like comedy dancing. Like I don't think those were Ashley's real dance moves. You know what I mean?
The entertaining moves. Yeah.
Like
I know what you're saying.
Like the grocery cart, like that sort of shit.
Yeah, you have the guy in your crew when you go out to the club. Well, I guess when kids actually did go to clubs and like dance and, talk to people and not just film their friends in a club. That's a story for another day, though. But you'd have the one guy who you go to the group of girls and you do like the joke dancing. You know what I mean? Like that's how you're trying to break the ice.
Yeah.
That kind of seemed like what Ashley was doing. But let's be serious. The real thing going down here was Hunter's Magic Mike performance on Nani.
Yeah.
Now,
he had some moves. You can tell he's not British.
I mean, I don't know. There was just a lot going on here, and I have a lot of questions, and I almost wish we had a girl on this podcast right now, because Nani was going off and she was like, oh, I love Hunter, what did she call it, his sexy stripper swag.
Yeah.
Which I was like, I didn't know that was a thing. And what I mean by that is I understand that male strip clubs are a thing, right? Like, yes. I get that, I understand it, I'm not doubting that. But I feel like the majority of times that I've heard like my friends, like female friends or like my friends' wives, you do the bachelorette party at some strip club or something, right? Do you know what I mean? And you've had those conversations. They've all said, and it could just be for show, but they've all been like, yeah, it's kind of gross. Like it's not really as cool as you would think it is, or it's not the same as like the male strip club and the girls dancing. Like it's just a different vibe completely, and it's not necessarily attractive. Now, again, that could just be the pump fake, but I would like our female fans to let us know what you think about Hunter's Magic Mike performance. Are you down for the, like, is there a thing as a sexy stripper swag? Like, I was just confused by that, because to me, like, every time I've heard it described, again, I know that it's a thing, but every time I've heard it described, it's kind of like, yeah, it was kind of weird, and like, for lack of a better term, that like helicopter in the face isn't really attractive.
No.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Am I making sense here? But I need the female opinion here. So tweet at us, let us know what you think, because I just found that scene hilarious. And even more hilarious was paying attention to all the people in the background watching, because they were kind of like, oh, because that was real, right?
Yeah.
Like, that wasn't a joke.
No.
Like, he's doing that for real, trying to like set the tone for what was gonna happen
And
later on.
I mean,
it wasn't a joke
She was doing some sexy chair dancing too on him, right? Like, she was grinding on him.
for sure.
I have a
Yes.
You know, you and I talk a lot about how much we like the club scenes, and we've both offered our opinions about clubbing. But I have to ask, because you and I have never been to the club together, what's your move? Like, are you a dancer? Are you posting up at the bar? Are you, like, finding a table and talking? Like, what's your go-to?
Well, at this stage of my life, I'm more of the post-up. I'm a conversation guy at this stage. The dancing, I mean, I can, but I think the extent of my dancing now would be a simple two-step, you know. Not really busting out more than the two-step, unless we're, like, I don't know, at a friend's wedding or something, but like the full-on like dance like at a club, I don't know. Like it takes a lot at this stage of my life. More of the post up, more of the two-step at most. I'll enjoy the odd song, get excited when my jam comes on, let's say. How old did that sound when my jam comes on? I did that on purpose, by the way.
Do you get jiggy with it? Is that what you're trying? Wow. Is that? Do I? Now who's old?
That's what I should have said.
Now right? Who's old, Sheldon?
Hey, that's hilarious. But yeah, most of the post up, I'm a talker.
Okay,
I'll say that.
I think you and I are in the same camp. I love dancing, but I hate dancing in clubs because that's where guys get in fights. And I'm not looking forward to that because I'm 10-ply, and I don't want to deal with that.
I also just think that like people in general don't dance at clubs anymore.
No.
Or maybe they do, just certain clubs. I don't know. But I feel like the majority of clubs are all like bottle service booths now. And people are just in booths with their friends on Instagram taking videos of each other.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. And thank you, listeners, for tuning in to Sheldon and John's Old Head podcast, where we complain about the youth of today.
Get off my lawn.
You damn kids.
Oh man, that's hilarious. But yeah, that's what was going down in the club, and then things take a turn.
Yeah, speaking of the booths, Bear and Davon are having a little conference in sort of a corner. And he
sorry, as you said, speaking of the booze, that reminded me of speaking of the club and a young Sheldon Alexander. I'll say one of the most famous lines. And you said, speaking of what happens with the booze, when the Remy's in the system, ain't no telling. Right? Are we following here?
Oh, yeah. No.
Not familiar with the song?
How dare you?
When the Remy's in the system, ain't no telling.
Of course I'm familiar.
I'm just saying. Hey. I'm not here to judge. I'm just here to say that's what I thought of when he just said that. But the Remy was definitely in the system.
Yes.
When it comes to your man's Bear. Again, as we mentioned, he's the showman of this episode. And he sits down with Davon and he's explaining that he has this plan. And his plan is to call out Hunter and Georgia, but also he just wants to make a scene, and in making the scene, he's setting what he calls the bear trap to make Georgia come back to him. And when he said it, I was like, how does that even make sense? Like, why would that be a thing? Why would that even happen? I don't even understand this plan. And then what happened, John?
It worked. The bear trap worked. So,
oh man,
I alluded to this earlier, but like, this is why I think Georgia is, I don't want to say in on it, but like, she's buying in. Like, she's an equal party to this bullshit. Because Hunter and Bear get into it, and Georgia takes Bear's side. and calls Hunter a dickhead. And, like...
It was really weird.
I'm not disagreeing. I think there's a case to be made that Hunter is a dickhead. However, he is trying to, like... I don't want to say defend her, but he's sort of looking out for her interests. And instead, what does he get as thanks? He gets called a dickhead.
Well, there's a lot of stuff going on here. Hold on, right? So we need to, like, there's some stuff we should, like, actually detail here. Because, like, Bear's yelling at Hunter, but there's a rant here where he's like, Bear says, sorry. He's like, you've got no strength. He's like, you got no strength, no power, no good looks, no tattoos. I beat you every time, and I'll fuck your girl after because that's what I do. I was like, what? Like, what is happening here? I love that was his, like, you know, this is why I'm better than you, because I have power, I have strength, I have good looks, and I have tattoos. Like, what?
And Hunter...
Tattoos make you better? Is that a thing?
And Hunter has tattoos.
Also true.
Like,
so now are we grading the level of tattoos? Like the skill level of the tattoo artist? Is that what he means?
I guess so. He has more, like, Bear certainly has more tattoos than Hunter. And, like, I don't think that Hunter has particularly good tattoos. He has real, like, southern tattoos. Whereas Bear's tattoos are more like full body and artistic, and like, have you seen that he has one on the back of his hand, so that if he covers his mouth, it's like a skull, so it looks like it's his skull. Like, I'm not a big tattoo guy, but that's pretty cool. But like, I don't.
Also too,
I don't know that.
Also too, while he's yelling though, the blatant level of disrespect, the yelling and pointing in someone's face.
Oh yeah.
I got to give Hunter some credit for remaining somewhat calm in that moment.
Yeah, I think that Hunter remained... See, here's the thing about Hunter, is he doesn't know how to, like, calm down after he's pissed. Right?
Yeah, he came in with the right intentions in terms of let Bear go, he's just going to talk a big game, whatever. And then at some point it flipped, and he turned on Georgia. But I think what happened was, at some point it became ego for Hunter, right? Yeah. Like, ego just kicked in. And now it became like a Macho Man comp for Hunter. Because really, you're right. In the beginning, he was protecting Georgia. Then, as you said, Georgia says it appeared, and I've tried to rewind it to make sure she was saying it to Hunter, or if it could have been she was talking about Bear. But the way that it appears as if she says to Hunter, you're a fucking dickhead. And then he flips out on her, tells her he doesn't care about her, and then tells her that she should go suck his dick.
Yeah. See, like, the thing that Hunter should have done, as soon as she starts calling him a dickhead, he should have been like, what am I arguing for? And then just go back to grinding on Nani. Or, like, go outside.
Also true.
Have a club cigarette, which is different than a regular cigarette. You know what I mean? Have a club cigarette, then go back to, like, get yourself a drink, move on with your life. I like how Wes put it.
Totally true.
You're acting like a young, not cool person. And then, which is, I mean, I don't think Hunter's ever been cool. And then he tells Hunter, and you alluded to this earlier, that Hunter thinks the challenge is one with heart and muscle, but it's one with brains, and Hunter is losing. And I think Wes is correct.
Hold on. Not only is Wes correct, so you've got to give a huge props to Wes in this instance, but again, and I know I do this all the time, and so I apologize for people that think I'm annoying talking about the behind-the-scenes stuff, but a huge shout to whoever the editor and producer is of this episode, because not only is Wes going in on him and giving him like this great, like, kind of heart-to-heart moment, but the very next shot they cut to is Wes says, and you are losing. And they cut directly to this shot of Bear doing what I can only describe as a Puff Daddy, like, diddy bop in between Cam and Davon as they're dancing. And it was just like the perfect way to summarize what just happened. like Bear wins again, right? And not to mention that his diddy bopping skills were pretty funny. Like, it was just a funny shot. And I mean, I'm going to go out on a limb and guess it completely taken out of context, but put in that context was perfect.
Oh, yeah. And, like, for all we know, that shot of Bear dancing was from much earlier in the night.
Oh, for sure. But the way that it was edited together, genius, beautiful. That is great reality TV television making. So salute to whoever did that. But yeah, then we get back to the house. Nani trying to calm Hunter down. It looks like they end up doing the do. Okay, cool. And Bear weasels his way back into Georgia's good space, I guess. And Georgia says, hey, I know it sounds pathetic, but she rationalizes it and she says, I feel like, she's talking to Bear again, but she says, it feels like he's the only one that cares about her. And right there, I'm like, huh, that actually kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, on some level, right? If she says, Hunter just proved that he's just like a loose cannon. And at the end of the day, even if Bear is, this like slimy, schwarmy, like 2-timing, 3-timing womanizer, in the context of being in this house, which we've discussed, you're isolated, it's a completely just strange situation. If he is the only person that has her back in terms of cares about her on any level, she's going to gravitate towards that. And so I could kind of understand that, on top of, as we mentioned earlier, just here for the show.
Yeah, and also, again, she's from Love Island. Like, I thought you made a great point earlier on when you're like, this isn't, like, she's a willing party to this too. And it's true, she was on Love Island. That's what that show is all about. And also, she and Bear have known each other for a very long time, right? Like, the fact that Bear's quote-unquote cousin immediately, like, when Georgia popped her head in the phone call room, the quote-unquote cousin was immediately like, hey, is that Georgia? Like, like, they're clearly buds. Like, they clearly know each other on some level, right? Not just sexual. Sure. Like, this is a maybe friendship that has lasted for some time.
Totally.
Then I still think Bear sucks, like, as a human being, and I find him annoying. But this is good TV. The next morning,
definitely.
The next morning,
more great TV. The next morning,
yes, your manhunter goes and kicks Georgia's foot to get her attention. Always a great start. And asks her to come upstairs ostensibly to sort things out with him. And he gives her what I think is a decent apology until he says, but I'm sorry, I still think you needed the tough love. And like,
Hold on. I wrote down his speech.
Oh.
I rewound it because it was so great. And again, great editing of how they hit the punchline in this with the sound effects. But like, they had the like super sappy music as if this was like a heartwarming moment. And Hunter starts off and he says, you know what? I'm man enough to admit when I'm wrong, and I recognize when I've done things to hurt people, and the way that I said what I said was out of line. But in a lot of ways, I'm not sorry for the tough love. So now now what you do with him is solely your business, and I won't comment on it again. But the way that it was cut together with like the super sappy music, and then when he says, but, and I think there might have even been a record scratch put in there maybe.
Yep, classic.
And the music shifts and George's head like kind of like perks up because like, oh, this is where we're going. So, and then they start arguing. But I want your take here. And again, questions that we ask each other, we're also asking you, the listeners. So feel free to chime in. But in that instance, what did you make of Hunter's, and I'm doing air quotes here, apology?
I liked it until he said but. Like, up until that point, I was like, okay, good. I was like, oh, very sincere, very good. But as soon as he said but, like, for those young kids, those young bucks, and I'm not talking about Team Young Buck, those young kids that are listening to this podcast, as soon as you say "but" in an apology or "because," you're in trouble. Especially "but." It negates the apology. And so as soon as he said that, I was like, oh no. Like, I didn't need the record scratch to be like, oh, this is not going to work out at all.
So here's my thing, okay? Even after the record scratch and the "but," and he changes it to, you know, in a lot of ways, I'm not sorry. Here's my thing, and I'm going to be honest here. He is correct.
Oh, he is correct.
Think that him saying in a lot of ways, I'm not sorry for the tough love. Whatever you do with him is solely your business, and I won't comment on it again. He is correct in that. But I have a coworker that always says this to me, and it always comes in handy all the time, okay? And it's always, what is your end goal?
Yeah.
Always remember that, right? And so in this situation, if you're Hunter, you have to remember that your end goal is to make up with your partner, Georgia, okay? So you already know that she's going back to Bear. You already know that that's probably not a good idea for your team, but what's most important is that you guys at least make up, because you cannot be fighting in this instant. So your end goal is to make up. So if that's the case, just apologize for what you need to apologize for and move on, right? You didn't need the tough love because you guys aren't that cool to where the tough love matters. Tough love matters with like your actual like good friends, right? Or like you're actually in a relationship with that person. That's when tough love matters. I'm partners with you on a reality show. Like, we got to go swimming and solve puzzles. I don't need your tough love. I just need you to swim and solve puzzles, right?
I think it also...
And that's where he messed up.
I think it also speaks to Hunter's, I guess, egotism, where he needs to be proven right immediately.
Correct. So true.
Whereas, like, you should know, and like Hunter has been on, at this point, on many reality TV shows. This is what, his 4th season of the challenge? And before that, he was on
Something
Are
like
You
that.
the One?
Oh yeah, he was on Are You the One? Yeah.
Like, he should know that if you really, truly believe that you're correct, that you can, just like, the tape won't lie. You know what I mean? Like, just be like, you know what? I'm gonna be okay. I'm gonna in the long run, like at the reunion, I'll be able to say I told you so.
For sure. And again, I can't stress this enough. What is your end goal? What is a desired outcome that you want from this conversation? Right? And that is a thing to keep in mind. And so the desired outcome is not to tell her essentially that, yeah, if you keep messing with them, you're essentially an idiot. Like, telling her that doesn't help your situation at all. But anyways, that's Hunter. And again, Wes is just disappointed in Hunter's lack of awareness, let's say. But you're right. It's straight ego. It's straight just to be able to say, I told you so. And you mentioned Hunter being on these reality shows. I remember Hunter's, because remember there was one time, I can't remember the gap now in between seasons, but I think I had a vacation at one point.
Yeah.
And so I was watching the season of Are You the One that I think, and pardon me if I mess this up, but I feel like that season of Are You the One was Hunter, Nelson, Amanda, Brittany, like there's a solid run of people that became part of the challenge. They were all on the same season of Are You the One? And so in that season, at least the 3 or 4 episodes that I ended up watching, Hunter came out not looking too good, let's say, right? Like, he kind of looked like he was getting played. Like, he liked, maybe it was even Amanda that he was like chasing after and she kept dissing him, or maybe it was Brittany. I can't remember which one, but either way, he came out looking kind of like a chump. And I feel like you see that now, the effects of that ever since, to where he's overcompensating for like, I'm never going to look like a chump again on TV, so I got to be the man all the time, right? And I feel like that's another example of what we just saw.
Yeah.
In my humble opinion.
No, I agree with you. To follow up on what you're saying, you are correct. He was on Are You the One series season 3, which included Amanda, Brittany, Cheyenne, like
Yep. Corey Cheyenne.
Corey Cheyenne, thank you. Devin.
Yes.
Nelson. And those are and Chuck, like Brittany and Chuck. And those
Yes.
are the ones, I believe that's everyone from that season of Are You the One that's been on the challenge. Also notable is Mike, who later was on The Real World and was then like basically booted off The Real World for being racist. Those are the people who kind of continue to thrive, I think, in the challenge universe. Just as follow up. But yeah,
totally.
Hunter is such like I do think like Hunter is a good person, but he's so emotional, and you're right. Like he's always
and that's the thing. He means well.
Yeah, and he is right. Like the content of what he's saying is correct. But he's so emotional that his delivery is wrong. Like, he always fumbles the message based off of how he tells it. You know what I mean?
And you're totally right, too, because... Oh, totally. You're totally right, because he also acknowledges the fact that he didn't want to have another season in a row where he's dealing with issues with his partner, especially coming off of what happened with Ashley. So he's smart enough to acknowledge, hey, I'm in the exact same situation where I'm beefing with my partner 2 years in a row, so maybe it's something that I'm doing. Like, he's acknowledging that and yet continuing the same behavior. But... anyways, that will continue because what we found out was we thought we were heading towards a Bear versus Hunter showdown. And especially when they walked into the killing floor, we thought, okay, this is going to be like a headbanger type competition. TJ's hyping everyone up. And the way that the votes went down, as we predicted, it was going to be Bear and Davon. They would have to make the pick. But here's the thing. Instead of picking Hunter, Bear decides that he's going to... the way that he worded it was he's going to pick the person closest to the person who put him in. So essentially the votes that sent him in were Nany. So he picks Nany's best friend in the house, Jenna and Gus, to go at. Did you like this decision at the time before we saw what happened in the elimination round?
Yes. And I'll tell you why.
I totally agree.
Because I would not want to face Hunter in what looks like a headbanger. But Gus and Bear are about the same size, I'd say.
Yes.
So that evens that, I think, evens the playing field. And Davon is very good in competitions, and I think Davon was a good matchup against Jenna. I think Davon's a good... in a physical competition, I think Davon's a good matchup against anyone in the house, female-wise, except Maddie and maybe Kara.
Yeah. No, that's fair.
So I think, and like I know Bear made a speech, but I think that's just window dressing. Like I think he wanted Gus and Jenna because of Gus.
I agree with that. And I think, too, the reason why I agree with the fact that it was a good move was because, as Wes said, the challenge is won with your head.
Yeah.
And he could have done the ego thing and said, nope, I got to take down Hunter, which obviously would also send out Georgia, which, you know, could potentially be a vote for him down the line.
Yeah.
And an ally, and obviously someone that he's enjoying spending time with in the house. But instead, he used his brain and said, no, I'm going to take down Jenna, who is one of the stronger alliance members of the other side of the house. He used his head and made a great pick, and then you end up going into the elimination round where, right off the bat, I'm going to be honest, Gus was talking so much that I was like, they're going to lose.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that, you know, I'm not saying that Gus didn't show up or anything like that. I just thought that it seemed too contrived. The tough guy act seemed kind of contrived, right? Because he says right away, as soon as they picked him, oh, you punched your ticket home, you cousin kissing something, something, something. I don't even know what he said. But it just seemed kind of...
cousin kissing motherfucker.
Cousin kissing motherfucker. Wow. Yes. So it just seemed kind of contrived, whereas Bear's nonchalant, like Bear's just Bear, at this point, right? Like, we've seen the same guy, whereas Gus barely talks, and then all of a sudden it was, okay, he wants to smoke, and I was like, we'll see. We'll see how that goes. But in terms of the actual challenge, John, there's a pole. It's pretty straightforward. There's a pole, and you got to rip the pole away from your opponent, no?
Yeah. Pretty straightforward, pretty classic.
Push and pull. Push and pull is what it was called. And pretty classic challenge. And first up were the guys. And to be honest, Gus had the upper hand at first, and he went to pull, and I think he just lost his grip, and that's why he lost the first round.
Yeah.
But he had it going. He was throwing headbutts, which I don't know how you feel about that, but I feel like that's kind of like not cheap, because obviously you can do whatever you want, but I feel like there's a karmic aspect to it. Is karmic a term?
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, John. See, again, that's what I'm talking about. I know you're here for me, man. But, right? Like, I just felt like throwing the headbutt was kind of like, okay, that's kind of a cheap move. I don't really know if the challenge gods will be okay with that. But they lose the first round. Then the second round was obviously Davon versus Jenna, and Davon comes out on top. Right?
Yeah. Well, I was, as you said, I was impressed with Gus, because he had that first round in hand. He went for sort of like a big yank, and like, I mean, he let go. I don't know if it's a brain fart or what, but he had a big yank. But he was in position. Like, if he'd held his hands, I think he would have ripped it out of Bear's hands. But then,
agreed. I think he totally messed up.
But I have to say, and I expected that you would say this, it seemed like if you looked in Jenna's eyes that she wanted no part of this. Like, we've seen Jenna in like tough competitions before, but
and possibly watching Gus like headbutt, seeing there were kind of like some punches, some knees. That's not really Jenna's MO. So I think seeing that while also hearing everyone yell, knee him in the back, knee, like, that's not Jenna's MO at all, right? Like, she's not about that life. Nor should she be, to be honest.
Yeah, no.
Nor should Davon, to be honest, right?
Yeah.
But do you know what I'm saying? And I think that kind of threw her off. But you know when I did notice it? It was after, it was the second round of Gus versus Bear. And Jenna at one point says, "Come on, Gus, let's go." But the way that she said it didn't sound confident at all.
No.
It sounded like she was just saying it to say it, and she didn't want the smoke at all.
Yeah.
And, hey, she gave up a good fight to Davon. She really did. And at one point, she looked really good. And I really just think that, and yes, this is going to sound crazy that I'm going to compare Davon to Michael Jordan here, but follow me for a sec, right?
I don't think Davon will mind this.
True. But what Mike always used to say, what they always used to say about Mike was that he always needed just a little something extra every night, right? Because, sometimes things get mundane, and sometimes, you need that little extra chip on your shoulder. So one night it would be a guy talking smack to him, and because that guy talked smack to him, that was the added motivation he needed to beat the Grizzlies in game like 52 of the NBA season when they're going to win their 4th championship, right? So by comparison here is that Davon, she was doing all right, but as soon as she was hearing Wes yell, "Knee her in the head, knee her in the head," and then she kind of looked up and said, "Hold on, did you really just say that?" And he's like, "Yeah." And she's like, "Okay, cool. That's all I needed to hear." And that kind of like juiced her up a bit. You know what I mean? It gave her that little extra swag, that little extra bounce. And yeah, she ended up winning it right there.
Yeah, that was the difference, was Wes gave her fuel for the fire.
Ah, yeah, I see what you did there.
I gotta say, I still think that, like, I don't think Bear and Davon are going to win this season. Like, I know that they've now won 2 eliminations, but they won both eliminations by the skin of their teeth. Right?
Yeah.
Like, if Gus holds his hands, I know, like, woulda, coulda, shoulda, but, like, if Gus had not had that brain fart and just held on a little bit longer, they don't win. And if Wes doesn't like motivate Davon, they don't necessarily win. Just like when they beat Shailene and Leroy, they don't necessarily like. They're not dominant, and in particular, Bear is not dominant. And as we saw in
that's true.
As we saw in the like halfway point of the season preview, at some point they're going to break up the teams, and it's every person for themselves. And when that happens, Bear's in trouble. Right? Like
totally, but it was always going to be that way because as we said, in terms of the UK alliance, before they turn on each other, the first person going out is always going to be Bear because he's the shield in front, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. So what was your line of the episode?
What was my line of the episode? Did I highlight? Oh, it was Bear for sure. Bear not only gets my line of the episode, he's my MVP of this episode, but when he was in Hunter's face, the whole like, when he's like, you've got neither strength, power, good looks, or tattoos. I beat you every time, and I'll fuck your girl after because that's what I do. There's so many levels of disrespect while you're actually pointing in the dude's face at the same time. Bear was just on one, right? He was on one in this entire episode. Not only that line, but the other line earlier, just the audacity to be like, oh, I was talking to my cousin. Like, again, he's my MVP of this episode because the challenge, this episode reminded me so much of why the challenge is kind of like its own version of performance art. There's so much going on here. Bear was just... It was a great performance by Bear. I can't deny the fact that he has injected life into this brand that is the challenge. And if you told me that, hey, all these guys would be gone, there's no Bananas, there's no CT, right? Like, the classic people are gone, and you don't even have, like, the Devons or the Coreys or the Nelsons, Shane, Amanda's gone. You know what I mean? Like, all that. I would have been so worried thinking, oh, man, how much do we have to talk about Cara and Kyle and Paulie? And yet here comes Bear infusing this just like energy into the show. And then you have the counter of Davon, who you like actually like and root for. Mm-hmm. It's just such a great dynamic that, hey, it's been a great season. I'm not mad at Bear in terms of what he's brought to the show. I'm entertained. Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Sorry. Is this not why you were here? Sorry, I'm done now.
No, it's great. I love it. I think there's a lot of great lines in this episode. I loved, your cousin is hot. Why can't I speak to my loved ones?
Yeah.
Fuck your opinion. I'm after you every day. You're acting like a young, not cool person. You cousin kissing motherfucker from the guy who was on Floribama Shore. Like, talk about playing with fire there, Gus. Bear by name, bear by nature. A bunch of great lines, but I gotta go back to my man's Turbo with, you have to cut his dick. Because it was just the way he said it. Was I think he was serious.
He's fucked, man.
Yeah, like he's just like so nonchalant. So I gather Bear is your MVP?
Yep, 1,000%.
Are you agreeing then with our man Lawrence Thomas that he's the most valuable TV person this season?
Do you know what happened though? I saw the tweet. I saw that Lawrence tweeted at us.
Yeah.
But once I saw that it was about the challenge, I like didn't read it. Because I hadn't watched the episode yet. Do you know what I mean? So I'm clicking on it right now.
Okay.
What's he say? He says, you hate to love him, but Bear might actually be the MVTP of the season. Most valuable TV player. Hashtag 1% chance, cousin lover. Hashtag you killed it. It wasn't me.
And you gotta say,
yeah.
He's got the animated gif of Shaggy asserting that it was not him.
I mean... As I said, Bear, are you not entertained? Right? I mean, Bear, he's entertaining. He is entertaining. Annoying or not, even after he wins and he's like, oh, we didn't even try. right? Like, he's being a douche, but at the same time, he's like, we won because of Davon. Thank you, Davon. Like, he has his moments where he'll, like, suck you back in.
Bear.
So, yeah, right now, I'm on the Bear wave, man.
Bear is a fantastic shit talker. I will give him that. But my MVP, I think, has to be D. Because learning to swim is a big fucking deal in conquering your fears. And also, she and Wes, like, won their competition. Like, it's important to note that they have racked up a ton of competition wins. And although they have yet to remove Bear from the game, they are keeping themselves safe. They're pushing the pace on the game. They're running the show. So, D, you killed it, my friend. Where can the people find you on social media, Sheldon?
You can find me on Twitter at Shell Alexander, on Instagram at Sheldon Alexander, and same thing goes for YouTube. Just search the Challenge Podcast on YouTube, and you can listen to the podcast there as well. And huge shouts to the people on SoundCloud. I like shouting out the OGs. The OG listeners on SoundCloud that have been there from the beginning of this You Killed It podcast are day ones. Huge shout to you guys for growing this into what it is now. And I enjoy the fact that this conversation continues from week to week, like during the week as well, as people start either watching the actual episode and then listening to the podcast, and then it'll start up a conversation on Twitter. I love that so much. So shouts to you guys. I do read the comments. We do appreciate it so much. So got to give the huge shout out to the OGs that are on SoundCloud. And again, of course, also shout out to the people that might listen on, I was going to say Apple Music, but I meant iTunes as well. So, yeah, shouts.
You can find me on Twitter or Instagram at JChidleyHill. As I mentioned earlier in the pod, it's opening day in baseball land, and your Toronto Blue Jays are hosting the Detroit Tigers. I'm covering it for work, and I'm covering the next 3 games. And I believe that you're going to be doing some baseball stuff, too, at your day job. So brace for lots of baseball talk, too, when you follow us on social media.
Yes, that is a thing. There's a lot going on. Yeah, there's lots going on. Busy time of year in the sports world.
Busy time of year for us.
One last thing I did want to say. I'm late on it, but I tweeted it out. If you like the challenge and you like sports, definitely, I mean, people probably already do listen to Bill Simmons because it's probably one of the most popular sports podcasts, if not the most popular sports podcast there is. But a recent episode, he had David Jacoby on, who, if you remember from the Right Reasons podcast, huge challenge fans, and they did this whole full-on breakdown of comparing the rise and fall, let's say, or the careers of Johnny Bananas versus LeBron and the parallels between their careers. It's so good. Such a great breakdown. I don't want to give too much away because I actually want people to go listen to it because, again, if you enjoy basketball and the challenge, you'll, like, that conversation is perfect for you. So I don't want to give too much away other than to say it cut so deep when they called Leroy Carmelo because I love both of them. I love both of them, but it was just like, ooh, that's so true.
Oh, that is so accurate.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's so good.
That's very good. Yeah,
that's all I got. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. We're so Canadian. We apologize to each other so much on this show. Until next week, this was You Killed It.
You Killed